The alien council watches in horror as an unthinkable human warship attacks their fleet with devastating precision. The warning signs were there, but they were ignored. Now, humanity is hunting them across the stars. The once proud council must face the consequences of their arrogance and underestimation. The room was silent, save for the soft hum of the alien council's command center. It was the sort of silence that chilled the bones, the kind that foretold doom. Leaders from across the galaxy sat in their chairs, their alien forms motionless, their eyes fixed on the holographic projections before them. They were an ancient species, once rulers of the stars, now reduced to a state of panic. What they saw unfolding before them was something they had long feared. Humanity had risen, and it was more powerful than they could have imagined. The projection flickered. As the view of the human warship was displayed, its massive form emerging from the darkness of space. It wasn't like any ship they had encountered before. Its hull was jagged and uneven, as though pieced together by beings who didn't fully understand the beauty of design, yet still somehow created a weapon of unmatched terror. The human warship was cloaked in the depths of space, hidden yet now revealed. And as it decloaked, it unleashed hell. The Council's collective breath was drawn in sharply as a series of explosive bursts erupted from the warship, lighting up the screen. It wasn't an ordinary battle, it was devastation. The alien ships were torn apart in seconds, their shields unable to absorb the human weapon's force. No one had expected this. Not like this. No one had ever thought that humanity, those fragile creatures who had once been seen as nothing more than a pest, could wield such unimaginable power. What is this? The voice of the Slathan commander trembled as he spoke, his massive form twitching in fear. This cannot be real. It's real, came the cold reply of the Empress. Her voice, usually commanding and filled with certainty, now echoed with disbelief and fear. Her silver eyes burned with rage as she watched the destruction unfold. Humanity, they've defied every prediction. We ignored the warnings. The room stirred, the council members exchanging glances, unsure of how to process what they were witnessing. The warning signs had been there for years, but the council had dismissed them. The elders, long silenced, had predicted this. Humanity would rise and strike back, but they were dismissed as radicals, voices of caution that no one had listened to, and now their predictions were coming true. How could they have hidden this from us? The voice of the ex-Noric was shaky, his alien, eyes wide in shock. How could they have built a warship like this without us knowing? The Empress clenched her fists, the anger bubbling within her. They didn't build it alone. This ship was designed. It's not just a human creation, it's something more, and now they're coming for us. The ship on the screen continued its relentless attack, its energy beams turning entire alien fleets into debris, cutting through metal and shields with terrifying precision. The sheer force of the warship's weaponry was unlike anything they had ever encountered. The humans had come from nowhere, their technological advancement hidden in plain sight. And now they were hunting their enemies. Those who had once seen them as weak. A deep, cold silence fell over the council. The realization hit like a physical blow. This wasn't just a retaliation. This was a new era. The humans had broken their chains. They were no longer prey. They were predators, and they were hunting the galaxy's rulers. "Where are their fleets?" the Empress demanded, her voice now commanding once again. "We need to know how many ships they've brought. How much firepower do they have left?" Her advisor, a small but agile creature from the Zendar species, tapped furiously at his console. His face was pale, his eyes wide with terror. "It's not just a fleet. There's an entire armada hidden beneath this one ship. We thought they were scattered, fragmented, lost in their own wars. But no, they've united. They've been hiding this for centuries, preparing in secret. The Empress turned away from the screen, her mind racing. "This is a nightmare," she muttered. "What have we done? We thought we could control them. We thought we could keep them weak. Now they've become the very force we feared." That Sendar advisor hesitated before speaking again. "They're not just fighting for survival anymore. This is something deeper. They've declared war. They've sent a message. You have made us this way." The Empress's face tightened with rage. She could feel the weight of their arrogance, how they had underestimated humanity for centuries. "They've been hunting us for generations, biding their time, and now they are hunting us again. We will fight back. We will crush them." Aboard the human warship, Commander Elias Reed stood in the command center, staring out at the endless void of space. His expression was grim, but there was a quiet intensity to him. Humanity had waited too long. They had suffered, been broken, and underestimated, but now they had risen, and now they would make the galaxy know their wrath. "We've confirmed the Empire's retreat," Lieutenant Sarah Cole reported from her station. "Their remaining fleets are regrouping, but we've crippled their primary forces. They won't be able to recover from this." Reed nodded, his face set in stone. "Good, but we're not done. We've shown them what we can do. But now, we need to send a message." A moment of quiet passed as Reed's mind calculated the next steps. They had only one chance to hit the Empire's heart, one chance to cripple their power structure completely. "Prepare the gravity wells. We're going to follow them." "It's time we finish what we started," Reed ordered, his voice calm but filled. With a steely determination, the warship's engines hummed to life, and the tension in the room grew. Every crew member understood what was at stake. Humanity was not just fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting to dominate, to take back what had been stolen from them, to make sure no one ever underestimated them again. As the Predator moved toward its next target, Reed glanced up at the stars. "We warned them," he thought, "and now they will know why you don't ignore humanity." On the command center's screen, the Empire's ships flickered as their forces regrouped. But it was already too late. The hunt had begun, and the humans were no longer the prey. They were the ones who would determine the fate of the galaxy. The Council's chamber fell into chaos as they realized the magnitude of what had just happened. The humans had sent their message, and the entire galaxy was about to learn that humanity would no longer bow to the will of those who had once considered them insignificant. "Prepare for the final assault," the Empress commanded, her voice now filled with fury. "We will fight to the bitter end." But as the Council scrambled to prepare for the war to come, one thing was clear. Humanity had won the first round. And now, across the stars, they would hunt. The situation was quickly spiraling out of control. The galaxy's ruling elite, once confident in their absolute dominance, were now in the grip of a growing panic. Their previous indifference toward humanity's development, their dismissal of ancient warnings, had led them to this moment. A reality where humans, those same insignificant beings, were now hunting them, not just as prey, but as predators. The Alien Council, a collective of ancient, powerful species who had long ruled the galaxy with an iron fist, sat in stunned silence. The flickering holograms of the human warship, the Predator, were now etched into their collective consciousness. The warship was a thing of terror, a weapon of unimaginable power. Its destructive force had shattered their fleets, and it was no mere ship, it was a statement. The Predator had been built for vengeance, and it was unstoppable. "This cannot continue," the Empress's voice was laced with fury and fear. "We've underestimated them for far too long." The Empress, a towering figure of silver skin and sharp features, had always been the epitome of control. But as she watched the holographic feed of the Predator tearing through the remnants of the Empire's fleet, she could feel her authority slipping away, replaced by the realization that she was no longer in control of the galaxy. "We need to strike back," the warlord from the Xantori race said, his voice deep and rumbling with urgency. "If we wait any longer, they will wipe us out. We need reinforcements." The Xendar advisor, a sleek and slender being with translucent skin, spoke next. His voice was soft, but it carried an unmistakable tremor. "Our fleets are in disarray. They cannot hold much longer. We need to pull back. We need time to regroup." The council fell silent once more. The Xendar's words echoed in the minds of every member in the room. Time was something they no longer had. Humanity had come for them, and they were relentless. The Predator was just the beginning. The other human ships, smaller and less powerful but still formidable, had already begun hunting down the scattered fleets. There was no safe place left. "Are we to retreat?" The voice of the Arcturan warlord was filled with disgust. "To abandon our worlds to these humans? No," the Empress snapped, slamming her fist onto the console in front of her. "We will not run. We will not surrender." The council was divided. Panic and fear gripped them all. The humans, whom they had once ignored, were no longer the disorganized and weak species they had once been. The ship that had emerged from the darkness, the Predator, was proof of that. It was more than just a weapon. It was a force of nature, designed to annihilate. "We need more than reinforcements," the Empress continued, her voice gaining strength. "We need to retaliate in full force. We must destroy them before they can reach the heart of our empire. We will call upon the Dark Fleet." The room fell quiet, as the weight of her words hung in the air. The Dark Fleet was an ancient and secret force, reserved for the most dire of circumstances. It was said to be the most destructive military force in existence, an army of machines genetically engineered, soldiers, and advanced weaponry unlike anything in the galaxy. It had been hidden for centuries, kept out of the public eye, a tool of last resort, but now it was humanity's only threat to their survival. "Activate the Dark Fleet," the Empress ordered. But as her command reverberated through the chamber, a new image appeared on the holographic feed. The Predator was still moving through the galaxy, and its trajectory had shifted. It was no longer targeting scattered fleets. It was heading directly for the Empire's core worlds. "Commander Reed," Lieutenant Sarah Cole said, her voice steady. "Despite the gravity of the situation, we've analyzed their fleet's movements. They're heading straight for our home systems. The Predator is leading the charge." Reed, standing at the helm of the Predator, glanced at the data flowing across his screen. It was all coming together now. The Empire had made a critical mistake, believing that humanity was a species that could be ignored. But the truth was clear now. Humans had been underestimated for too long, and now they had the power to take back what had been stolen from them. They were no longer fighting just to survive. They were fighting to win, to dominate. "It's time to deliver the Xi." "Final blow," Reed said quietly, his voice filled with quiet determination. He turned to his crew. "Prepare the cloaking systems. We're going to strike before they know we're coming." "Yes, Commander," Cole replied, her fingers flying across her console. "Cloaking activated. All systems are go." The Predator vanished. From sight, its massive form cloaked and ready to strike. Ahead of them, the Empire's core worlds were within reach. There, the Empire's leaders, those who had dared to dismiss humanity as weak, would learn the full extent of their error. They would know the price of underestimating Earth. The council chamber was still in chaos. As the Empress ordered the deployment of the Dark Fleet, the council members argued among themselves. Some wanted to pull back, retreat into the outer systems, while others demanded an all-out assault. The debate was growing more heated by the minute. "Send out the Dark Fleet," the Empress shouted. "We will not be the prey." But as the orders were given, the Xendar advisor spoke up again, his voice carrying an edge of desperation. We need more time. Their warship is already targeting the capital. We cannot stop it now. Suddenly, a low rumble filled the room, and the screens flickered. The signal, an encrypted transmission, was from the Predator. It was the only ship humanity had left to fight with, and it was making its final move. On the holographic screen, the Predator decloaked just outside the Empire's homeworld system. The Empress's face went pale as the human ship emerged from the shadows of space, its weapons fully charged. This time, there was no warning, no more parley or negotiations. It was time for humanity to take what was theirs. This is your final warning. A voice cut through the static of the transmission. It was Commander Elias Reed's voice, cold and filled with quiet rage. You've ignored our warnings long enough. Now you'll face the consequences. The hunt has begun. As the transmission ended, the Predator unleashed its first blast. The capital world of the Empire, once a symbol of their dominance, trembled under the power of humanity's wrath. The blast from the Predator hit the central command station, and in an instant, the capital's entire infrastructure began to crumble. Buildings exploded into debris, and the very foundation of the Empire shook. The Empress could only watch, horrified, as the city that had once stood as the heart of her empire was reduced to dust. "Prepare for war," the Empress whispered, her face set in a grim mask of determination. But the words felt hollow. The damage had been done. The war for the galaxy was no longer something that could be contained. Humanity had awoken, and they were hunting the Empire across the stars. On the Predator, Commander Reed stood in front of the viewscreen, his eyes watching as the planet's destruction unfolded before him. The battle had only just begun, but the tides had already turned. The Empire had misjudged humanity, and now they would pay the price. The Predator was more than just a warship. It was a statement, a declaration. Humanity was no longer the prey, and now, across the stars, they were hunting the very species that had once ruled them. The galaxy had seen the birth of a new power, and the humans were not going to stop until their vengeance was complete. "Let them come," Reed whispered to himself. "We'll be ready. The hunt had begun. The Predator surged forward, its cloaking technology shielding it from the Empire's sensors as it glided toward the heart of the Empire's core systems. The quiet hum of its engines was the only sound that filled the command center, where Commander Elias Reed stood in front of a vast viewscreen, his gaze fixed on the distance. Behind him, the crew of the warship moved with practiced efficiency, their hands flying over consoles, every member of the crew acutely aware of the mission's gravity. They were no longer fighting just for survival. They were fighting for everything humanity had lost. The Empire had made the mistake of underestimating them for too long. Now it was time to make them understand. Humanity would no longer cower. The galaxy had seen the Ragnarok, and now they would see the Predator. Humanity's answer to a long history of oppression. "Commander," Lieutenant Maria Cole's voice broke through the quiet, her fingers moving rapidly across her console. "We've detected a major power surge in the capital systems. It's an entire fleet. The Empire is bringing its full strength to bear against us." Reed stood still for a moment, allowing the words to sink in. The Empire, desperate to hold on to its power, had gathered its last line of defense. But this wasn't just any defense. It was the final push, an attempt to crush the humans in one decisive strike. Reed knew this would be their greatest test. "How long before we reach the capital?" Reed asked, his tone as steady as ever. 10 minutes, Cole responded. "We're entering the final approach phase now. Their fleet will be in full engagement range. Soon, activate the gravity wells," Reed commanded. "Prepare for maximum assault, no holding back. This is the endgame." His words were like a switch that flipped. The crew responded without hesitation, their training evident in the smoothness of their actions. Reed turned away from the viewscreen and walked to the central command console, his mind already calculating the next move. This wasn't just about destroying ships. This was about sending a message the galaxy could not ignore. Aboard the Empire's flagship, the Eclipse, Empress Solara paced back and forth, her expression a mixture of rage and frustration. She had watched as the Predator had torn through their fleets like paper, reducing their greatest warships to debris in the blink of an eye. Her advisors were scrambling to deploy reinforcements, but she knew it would be too little, too late. The humans had a power they couldn't understand, and now they were on the cusp of delivering the final blow. "The Predator is on a direct course for the capital," her lead strategist reported, his voice tight with anxiety. "Our outer defenses are holding, but they won't be able to stop them much longer. We need a new strategy, Empress." Solara stopped, pacing, and turned toward the strategist, her eyes burning with cold fury. "What are you suggesting? We have no time for new strategies. We fight or we die." The strategist swallowed, clearly uncomfortable with the severity of her words. "We deploy the Dark Legion. It's our only hope."